Welcome to Local Leverage. Today I'm super excited to be sitting down with Thach Nguyen. He's got an amazing story from an immigrant to a real estate agent to investor, developer, coach, you name it, the king of BRRRR. Thach, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
It's awesome to have you, man. Such a bundle of energy and such a great wealth of experience. I'm really excited to get into this. I want to start first off. I mean, you've got an amazing story. I mean, coming to the United States with your parents at 4 years old and really having nothing. I think you've mentioned your dad had, $100 to his name, and despite that, the irony of coming over with no home and total uncertainty to being in real estate and making it happen. I think you're the personification of the American dream.
Yeah.
And I think people can certainly listen to more of your story items, but the thing that really stands out to me is now your personal mission, not only creating wealth for yourself through real estate, but creating opportunities for renters that don't have first and last, and even finding a path for those people to become homeowners or maybe even multiple homeowners. So tell us a little bit about that mission and how you got to this point.
Yeah, I was born in Vietnam, 1970. 75, that's when the communists took over Vietnam. My dad was a translator for the U.S. military. And when the U.S. decided to pull out in April 1975, which is going to be the 50-year anniversary this April, which is crazy. And when we left out of the last plane with the military, there were three places where all the Vietnamese actually landed in the U.S. Southern California, Houston, and Virginia. We happened to be on the plane that went to Southern California, and Camp Pennington, which is down in San Diego, where they house all of the refugee in Camp Pennington. We stayed there in the barracks for a few months. Then Governor Evans from Washington State, helped migrate 500 families up to Washington State. And we went up there and we stayed at another military base called Camp Murray, which is in Tacoma, Washington. Right. So we stayed in the barracks in there. Those are our home for like a few months. A gentleman, Charles Zettler, was a volunteer there, and he sponsored our family to go live with him and his mom. And we lived there for about 2 years. My dad finally got a job up in Seattle, which is like 45 minutes north where Charles lived. And we found a little 2-bedroom, 1-bath rental that we lived there. And, as I grew up, we didn't have any money. We used to go to the food bank, collect the block cheese, the cereal box, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I've been down that path, Yeah. And I graduated from high school in 88. I wasn't super sure what I wanted to do when I went to college, but I followed my two older brothers' footsteps. They in the aviation business. They love flying. They love fixing airplane. So I went and fixed airplane with my other brother, right? One of my older brother. And I graduated in 91, and I got a degree to go work for, I think it was Alaska Airline out in Denver somewhere. And I didn't really want to leave, I didn't have any money, so I'd rather stay home. And I'm parking car at a Chinese restaurant, and this girl who was my friend, her parents owned the restaurant. She said, "You should do real estate with me, right? I'm getting my real estate license. You be good at it, and you make 7% commission." I was like, "What?" 21 years old. I was like, "Man, sign me up." You know what I mean? Right? I don't know nothing about real estate, but sign me up. Right?
Exactly.
So I got my license when I was 21. I was the youngest agent in Washington State. My first 3 years, I just didn't do nothing. I just sat around, right? And I met Mike Ferry, and Mike Ferry's a big real estate guru. And he said, "Look, man, if you want to actually do real estate well, you got to get listings. You got to get listings.
Right.
And if you control the listing, you control the buyer."
That's right.
And I didn't understand that, right? And then he says, if you spend 70% of your time and effort and energy, go out there and find the seller. If you find the seller and you ask for a sale, you can, if the house is nice, list it. If the house is a fixer, sell it to an investor.
Right, right.
And I was like, damn, that sounds too damn easy, right? And
easy to say, hard to do.
Right?
Yeah.
So what happened for me was I door knocked 100 doors a day, 5 days a week, and it took me 5 hours to door knock 100 doors. See, back then, they didn't have service at what you guys got. Right. You see?
That's right.
And back then the title company was the one who actually only had the data,
Right.
right? And they charged back then for those data, right? A lot. And so I used to knock on the door and I used to find seller as to list their house. And I became successful. I started listing 10 houses a month, 10, 20 houses a month, 20, 30 houses a month. It was me, my wife, and one assistant. And I was selling 100, 150 homes a year. And I was making close to $1 million back then. Home back then was only like $80,000 a year. You know what I mean? Back in the
Dude,
days.
that's a lot of hustle.
Yeah, was the hustle, right? But the key thing, the tipping point for me was the owner. His name was Saul. He said, you can be rich by selling real estate, but you only can be wealthy if you own the real estate. So you find these ugly houses, right? Don't sell them to all the investor. Keep them for yourself. Fix them up, keep them. And I bought my first rental in 1997. I started real estate in 91. I met Mike Ferry in 94. I bought my first rental in 97. And from there on, Cameron and I was hooked, my wife, and Saul used to always coach us. And we made a declaration after he bought that first house that whatever happened, we're going to actually buy 2 rental every year. No matter how tight our money get, we got to buy 2 rental every year. If we make more money, we'll buy more than 2. But we got to buy a minimum of 2, and we don't sell them. If we ever sell them, we trade them up for bigger property. And that's been my mantra.
And did you have situations along the way where it was really tight, but you stuck to that?
Oh my God! Hey, listen, I'm gonna keep it real with you. Even sometimes today, it's still tight because I do bigger projects today. You know what I mean? We just finished doing a 100-unit apartment building in near Oakland, right? And we just had to feed it recently because the interest rate's high,
Right.
and we had to feed it a couple $1 million just recently. You know what I mean? So when you're feeding $1 million every few months, your millions of dollars in the bank can go away fast.
Absolutely.
So even though we leverage use the bank money, but sometime when rates are low, vacancy is high, you got to have some money to actually weather through the storm. And so yes, I had many days back then when money was super tight. I was living on the edge, and but I made a commitment. I just knew I just had to buy it. I just had to hold it. But I also knew I control my own destiny by selling real estate.
Yeah.
So I had to keep my focus, knocking 100 doors a day to keep making that active income coming through the front door. I never stopped the active income. This is the reason why I know that with a lot of real estate agents, when they start flipping houses or buying rental, they stop generating active income. And sometimes flip is great, but sometimes flip takes 3, 4, 6 months.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I just kept pumping out the residential business, right? Making close to 100 grand a month. That was a lot of money back then as I was buying rental. And even today, I still have a high level of active income. I still pump out rentals.
Yeah. So I want to jump into that in a lot more detail. But before, and I don't want to leave kind of your story and your mission piece. Like one of the things that was just really impressive to me was, you decided, and I think maybe this is kind of like a pay it back moment. Like,
yes.
Hey, I'm going to create these rentals, and I'm going to allow people that normally would struggle to get into a rental. I'm going to put them in there, and then use that as a platform to help them become homeowners. Tell me a little bit more about that and how you're approaching that. I think this is really powerful, and I want people to understand this.
As I became more successful, everybody knew me for being like a top agent in my little area, Seattle, and I used to do a little bit of a community work, and then there was a big nonprofit in Seattle called First Place, and I knew some of the director in that area, and Don Mason said, "Hey, I'd like to come in, meet the director." Her name is Miss Cato, right? She was a director of this nonprofit. So I went and met with her, and she said the biggest challenge we have as family, because that First Place is a service where they help family come out of transition from the homeless into transitional housing, get them education and everything, so they can actually, them and the family can move on to the next thing. The challenge with those families would move out of homeless, and homeless isn't drug homeless. They just, something happened and they couldn't afford it. Right, to stay in the house.
Yeah.
So they have to stay in the shelter. So they said the biggest challenge, we can't find housing to get these people from homeless into transitional houses. And then from there, they can build their way up and they get the job right and move on to permanent housing. So the gap was temporary housing. and nobody wanted to do it because they had bad credit. So when I met Doreen and Don Mason and the board and everything, then I said, look, I'm happy to work with you guys. So what happened was we partner up. Doreen Cato had the family. Then we went to the city of Seattle and we talked to the city of Seattle, and they had a Section 8 department. And the Section 8 department worked with Doreen Cato and gave the family the voucher. And then when the family moved into my property, so what happened was I also had a bank called First Foundation. They partnered up. So they gave me the money to build these townhouses, right? And then the city of Seattle will give the voucher to First Place. When the family move in, First Place will give me the money to pay for the rent, and First Place will actually manage the family. And so it was a team of four. Cool. So my job was just to buy the property, fix them up, build it, and then rent it to First Place. And First Place would get the voucher from that. And we were just doing that. And then one day, all of a sudden, I get a phone call from Good Morning America, and they said, we want to give you an award for American Heroes, the American Hero Award for doing something beautiful across the United States. And they came
how did that make you feel?
First of all, I just started getting exposed to these kind of big media. You know what I mean? And Kathy Hoffman, it's like a Katie Curry. You know what I mean? Kind of an anchor. And so she came to Seattle, and I was blown. And then they met me. They met First Place, and then today I still own these houses, and First Place still rent them today. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, I've seen a couple of videos, with the people that you're actually helping, and while it's risky for you in some regards, not getting that first and last, and some investors might go, "Oh, that's not a great move." I've got to imagine that they are really endeared to you, and they're willing to make it happen one way or another.
Oh yeah, they're good people. They just have a bad situation.
Yeah.
No different than my family, right?
Right.
Today, on top of that, today I have another philanthropist thing I'm doing that's very creative. So the Seattle Sounder FC, which is the big soccer team.
Yeah.
And then they have a nonprofit called the Ray Foundation. And the Ray Foundation mission is to create free play for underprivileged kids, because most of the nice field are private field.
Right.
And they want Seattle Sounder and Ray want to create public field so kids can play without having it all locked up. They had a mission to build 26 soccer field by 2026 when the World Cup get here in Seattle. They started their mission 3 years ago, and they was on their way to 26. They was already at maybe like about six or seven, and they met me 2 years ago, and I started working with the Ray Foundation. And today, what I do is I actually buy old houses, and then I have partners like Harmony Lenders, cabinet people, trimming, window, roofer, landscaper, and they donate all their service and material. Some of them 100%, some of them are 80%. And we buy old houses and we fix them, and then I sell them on market value. I donate all the money. And last year we donated $1 million, right, cash. And then this year I'm building right now 7 brand new townhouse, and all the vendors donating. You know what I mean? Like cabinet companies, they donate 7 sets of cabinet company. You can imagine how much money that is. One set's $25,000. And so we're gonna sell this here. It's almost done. Be done here in the summer. And when we sell this, we're probably gonna get close to probably $800,000. I'm gonna donate all $800,000 to the Ray Foundation to be the second $2 million in a row. And this is the most they ever been from anybody. And that's our way to actually partner up with them and build soccer field all around Seattle. We already done 26. We're working on the next 26 now.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. Good job. All right, let's get back to the investment side. I mean, I have so much to ask you. Let's just start with BRRRR. For those that aren't familiar with it, you've built really a framework and a model that I know you follow and coach others on. Maybe just start with help my audience understand what BRRRR is and why it's a powerful strategy.
So there's two ways of buying rental. You can buy what I call turnkey, ready to go, or you can buy rental where you add value to it, right? They need some work, and then you rehab it and you add value. So when I started buying rental with turnkey. And the problem, if you only make so much money, right? Your money is basically done, and you gotta have to go raise capital from your friends and family. I did that at the beginning of my career, and I didn't want to do it again because it's a lot of work.
Is that where
And
most of your
so,
original funding came from, was friends and family?
no, all my funding came from me selling real estate, from being
Okay.
a realtor.
So you funded it
As I
yourself.
started
Okay.
doing like a multi-family, I started getting friends and family, and I did like 2 or 3 projects, and it's just so much risk that I just don't want to take for my friends and family,
Absolutely.
right?
Totally
Because I'd
understand
rather
that.
lose my money than lose my own friends' money. That's just my mentality. And so early on, I was buying fixer upper, and I was fixing them. And then of course my mentor Saul says, "Man, you got all this equity. Why would you sell it? You should keep it. Keep selling real estate. If you keep selling real estate, you don't need to sell the fixer. You can just keep it, and it just keeps the equity. Because eventually you want to pay them off one day anyway. You don't want to have all this mortgage when you're in the 80s. You want to have peace of mind." And he's a Jewish man, very smart. You know, he believes in leveraging, and at a certain time he believes on at what age do you want to stop leveraging and just have peace of mind. And
Right.
that's different for everybody, right? And so I started buying old houses and flipping them back then, and Saul got me thinking I should keep them, and it makes sense, right? And so that's how I fell onto the BRRRR, and the BRRRR stands for buy it as a fixer, rehab it, rent it, go to the bank, refi, and get your original down payment. I don't pull the equity. I just pull my original down payment. That's the difference in me
Okay.
and everybody else. Because other people pull the down payment and as much equity they can so they can take as much because they don't have active income. So they can repeat the process. I just want my original down payment money back out.
And then you just recycle that and go again with
Go
that
again.
same original down.
That's right. So I always tell my student, keep the active income going as you do BRRRR. Because that way your mortgage stays low.
Right.
See? But everybody who do BRRRR pull out as much as they can out of the property,
Right.
so they can use that to buy other property. It's great when interest rates low, but interest rates higher. So you got to leave some money in there. So leave the equity in it. See? And so I was doing that, and my philosophy has always been I don't like to leverage. My portfolio, probably got 60+% of equity in them. You know what I mean? Right? Because I never took any of my money out. So anytime I do a deal, I leave it in there. When it's ever time for me to sell, I will sell it and upgrade it to bigger and better property. But I don't pull the equity because I want to leave the equity in there. Because I make money over here. And that's what I teach all my students. And that to me is how I be able to accumulate and scale my rental so fast without using a lot of investor because I get my original money and I just deploy. Now when I started adding ADU to the backyard, I buy one property and I get 2 property at the end. So I get to scale even faster.
Yeah.
Now
And the
now they
income is
allow-
all the rental spread from between the rent and
That's right.
yeah, okay.
So I got income coming from my active income, right? And a couple $100 for every property adds up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now with ADU, now you can buy a house, and now you can put instead of one in the back, you can put multiple in the back. So you buy one house. By the time you finish, you can have 3 or 4 total on one plat.
And my understanding is that in Seattle in particular, I think San Diego too, are maybe the more progressive areas for allowing ADU, but I think it's spreading more. How do you go about identifying opportunities with ADU in mind?
Yes. So a lot of people don't know this. In December, they had a big meeting in Seattle. All the city council, a lot of the different city council from all over the United States came to Seattle, and they wanted to learn about how Seattle's doing ADUs. Because Seattle's the only city right now that actually, when you build an ADU, they give you a separate parcel number. You can sell it separately, like
nice.
individual houses, which is a game changer,
Yeah.
right? And you don't have to live in the front to have the back, right? And so now everywhere across the United States, that's where the dense, coastal city,
Yep, density, yeah.
they are allowing ADU now. I got students all across America. They doing it in Denver. They're doing it in Tampa. They're doing it in Orlando. They're doing it in Miami, right? They're doing it in Las Vegas. They're doing it in Arizona. They're doing it in the whole state of California, Oregon, so they're doing it in Chicago. They're doing it in Atlanta, right? They're doing it. Now, every city is slower on getting a separate parcel number.
Yeah. Yeah.
California about to get it literally any time now. The moment they get it, they
Game
can
on.
have 2 separate parcel number, and they appraise it as one house and another house, not as a duplex.
when you're looking at those, I mean, obviously you have to have the footprint with enough vacant land behind the house to accommodate the ADU.
Yes.
Are there other considerations? Like, are you looking for corner lots where you have
Yes.
access?
Great
What are the
question.
things that go into this?
So if this is a typical lot, and what you want to do is you want to find a property in a perfect world. You want to find a property that sits towards the front, not in the middle. If it sits in the middle, then
Yeah.
you killed it.
Yep.
If it sits in the front, the perfect world is to get a corner lot. You got the front, you got the side. Then you enter off the side. Right? In the second perfect world, you got the front, side, and an alley.
Right.
Enter
Okay.
off. So when you ever have a property where you can cut it off, you enter off the side of the back, and it has very separate. The last is coming down the side of the property to get to the back. If
Do
you
you
don't have
create an
access,
easement? Yeah, create some sort of an access
usually
point.
what happens, like in California, they have a driveway to get to the garage in the back.
Right.
And that's what people do, the detached garage into ADUs. So you want to get a lot that's at least 5,000 square feet, house in the front, where you have either corner lot, alley, or a driveway to get to the back. The best is the corner with an alley. Second best is just a house with an alley. And then third best, come down the driveway. Right? Now, here's the secret, everybody. And you guys can do this, because I know, because a bunch of my students is already doing it. You guys can actually find, by looking at Google Map, and find out all the property with alley access.
Yep.
And send it to people. All I do is I go in to data and go, I want all the home that's old, 1,000 square feet. You want 1,000 square feet. You don't want big home. You want to say 1,000 square feet. Older, a lot of equity, 5,000 square foot lot, alleys. And all of a sudden, you can create that beautiful list for all your clients all across America. And now, even if you don't have it separated, it's okay, everybody, because you can buy it and still build it and just leave it like that. And then when the separation comes, you can separate it. Now you have, boom.
Yeah.
Because in Seattle, it costs $350 a square foot, just like California, to build a 1,000 square foot ADU. But we rent it for $3,500 to $4,000. So that's a 1% rule.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where can you get a 1% rule anywhere across America other than in a really depressed, small town?
Right.
But if you're in an expensive area, San Diego, California, New York, Tampa, Orlando, Miami, right? Las Vegas, Arizona, it's hard to get the 1% rule. This is the new cash flow game.
Love that. Love it. Okay. So when you're finding these, I mean, in addition to what you just laid out there in terms of the square footage of the lot and the size of the home, what other things are you looking for? Because I know at least one of your mentees, and she had mentioned, her way of targeting properties or property owners. And I was surprised that she was not going after kind of the typical real estate investor distressed properties, but rather she was just looking for people that had been in the home for a long time and maybe looking for a change. How are you targeting and what do you recommend people do to find these great opportunities?
Yeah. So of course, this only works in a dense area. So when I tell student, if you're gonna create a list, you should create a list, what I call a distress list, and then a distress list with big yard in an area where have ADU potential.
Yes.
So you don't leave nothing out, right? So if I was creating a distress list, right? There's four market. There's A, B, C, D market, right? A is the affluent market, D is the more high crime market, and B and C are the more rental market. If you want to wholesale and fix and flip, you can do it in any one of these markets.
Right.
So if you want to find distressed property, just go all four area, right? And so I would tell people just go and, first you got the criteria of the property. I always like to do 2-bedroom plus, 1-bedroom, 1-bath plus, 1,000 square feet and bigger. Lot size 5,000 square feet. The home is, probably depending where you guys live, it could be 25, 30 year and older, right? And then on the seller's criteria, I like the seller to been there for at least 30 plus years, has at least, own it free and clear, up to
Oh,
50%,
okay.
right? Up to
Yep.
50% high equity. And look for owner occupy and investment property. Now, then I'm create a second list. The second list, I want to go into the B's and C neighborhood where those are all good rentals. I would do the same criteria, but I want to make sure I get 5 times for a lot if I can find corner lots in those areas. So now when I'm prospecting, I know if I'm prospecting these are good for potential wholesale, fix and flip, and to keep. And then these areas good for wholesale, flip,
Gotcha.
and right like that.
Gotcha.
So
Yep.
those are the criteria, property criteria and seller criteria. And the only difference between obviously the B's and C is the square foot of the lot, right? And if you have access to the backyard. And now you have two lists.
Right. Nice.
Just list for two.
Nice. And what mechanisms are you recommending, and what are you finding success with in terms of the channel to reach out to these folks? I mean, people are doing calls or door knocking or direct mail. Or what are the things that you're finding to be effective?
I still think the highest and the best return is either it's cold calling. Either you call or get a VA to call for you, because those are the best. I think the second best is probably text, right?
Yep.
I think the third best, but it takes time, is door knocking, right? And then flyers. What I like to do is that if this was an area I'm working, and this is the area, let's call it, B's and C. I want to.
Right.
And they say in this whole B and C, there's like 5 zip code, and there's 50,000 home. I'll have a VA call through here, mail periodically,
Yep.
text, and then what I would do, and I still do it today, I take a zip code where I really want to focus on, where I zoom in, and I want to see in that zip code how many home in that zip code with this. I just punch in the zip code, and it zooms even tighter, and let's say I have 50 home. And what I do when I'm out and about in those areas, I would door knock those 50 home personally myself. So now I'm doing the sniper style by door knocking.
Yeah.
And I got the Army basically flying in, doing the calling, and I got the Marines coming in from the side with the flyers. You see what I mean?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I'm covering all angles.
Do you find that the door knocking, that you doing it yourself, it also helps to sharpen you as a seller? And I mean, it's got to give you great skills. I mean, you're getting direct feedback.
100%. Yeah. I've been a cold caller and a door knock all my life. I love it. I love the thrill of it. I love the thrill of meeting people. Matter of fact, I just bought this other house, and it was an ugly house, three over. I went and door knocked the house. The guy came out. The guy was like, "What do you want?" Right? That's what he said to me the other day. I was like, "Hey, I'm your neighbor down here, 200. I just rehab this house. Are you the owner?" He said, "Yes. What do you want?" "I just want to talk to you. Do you have a minute?" And he finally opened the door, and that was like a win for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then he came out, and he was a little bit abrupt for a minute. And after that, we started talking. He calmed down and ended up talking a lot. And he said, "Hey, I'm not selling right now, but I do know you." That's what he said to me. But my neighbor next door, he asked me to buy his house, and I don't want to buy it. You should go door knock it. So I went and door knocked his house the other day. He wasn't home, but I got to go back out there today and try to see if I can get him.
Nice.
Right? And I'll mail to him. I'm gonna call him. But the house is a hoarder, and I love buying those. So yes, I still love it. When I'm out and about, I just do the sniper style, and the team do the general call.
Yeah. Thach, I'm a big proponent of what I call targeted outbound marketing, and everything you just mentioned falls right in that category. I know some people just feel like, hey, that's maybe old school, and there's all these new ways to find opportunities, but it works, right? So it's putting in the reps and being consistent, but
right.
Everything you just laid out is so controllable, and you can generate activity much quicker, I believe.
Now let me say this. There is a new way, everybody. I'll tell you the new way. Here's the new way. It's called social media.
Sure.
If you are out looking at houses, especially the type of houses. Now, if you're a realtor, you want to show you out showing houses. You want to show you out listing houses. Then you tell people you're looking to buy and say, you call me. If you're an investor, you're out looking at ugly houses, distressed property, meeting with your contractor, going to pick out selection. You should be posting those to train people he's an investor. And so, a couple of times a week, you drop the call to action. Hey, If you got ever know anyone that has these properties, these conditions of property, I call them ugly houses. They want to sell as is. Call me. I'll buy them. And listen, I take care of you too. Right? That's the new way, right?
Yeah.
And people don't do that either.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But I always say the low-hanging fruit is social media. Then you, right? Tell your friends and family. How about the B to to B, right? People you do business with, right? All my mailman and all my delivery guy that come to my house, they know who I am, right? They always know, Thach, man, if I find ugly house, I'm gonna let you know, bro. Hey, you know, I take care of you. So I got everybody on the street working for me because they know what I do. That's the low-hanging fruit on top of making your list, being proactive, and making the call, the flyer, the text. And you don't have to do it all. You can hire somebody to do it.
Love it. That's amazing recommendations and coming from somebody with a ton of experience. So yeah, I hope everybody
and listen, everybody,
takes that.
I still do it. This is not something that I done it, 20 years ago. Right? If you follow me on Instagram, you see I still do it. I purposely put certain things to let people know I'm a real estate investor.
That's cool. Thach, you're and I see a lot of young people that join in with you as a coach and mentor. And is this a young person's game? I mean, like think about BRRRR strategy in particular. Was somebody at my stage get into this, or do I need a longer horizon of holding those properties as rentals to make this a meaningful?
That's
play?
A great question. The answer to real estate investing is never one answer for everybody. And I learned this from my own mentor, Saul. When I meet somebody, especially when they come in, I always ask them the question, what's the end game for you? And a lot of them said, I want to have the option to, retire. And I said, I'll give you an example. Young gentleman came in the other day as a new student. I said to Fong, what's the end game? He said the end game is I want to get to $25,000 a month in passive income. I said, okay, that's very clear. Why? He goes, I want to retire my wife. My wife make like $200,000 a year. If I get up to $25,000 a month, she don't have to work. If she chooses to, she can. So now the strategy is just help him accumulate enough doors and get him paid down or off to get that $25,000. Most people don't need $25,000. Most people don't have any retirement. If you can get most people $5 or $10,000, that would be a game changer in their life. And most rental property these days $2,500. If someone said that, keep it real. If I had $5,000 coming in for life, that would be a game changer for my life because everybody's different. Let's just get 2 rental property bought and paid off. Someone come to me and say, Thach, I want to get 50 property bought and paid off. No problem. So it depends what someone's end goal is.
Yeah.
Most people I noticed, if they had $10,000 a month, their life has changed dramatically once they stop working. They still can work. So I would figure out what someone's end goal is, how much passive income they really want to hit. Because nobody needs $50,000 or $100,000 a month.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? If they had 10, all these social media, I was talking about, oh my God, how can you live off of 50,000? Bro, cut it out.
Exactly.
Cut it out. Right?
That's absurd.
Cut it out. Talk about the average American. You know this? Yeah, the average American, only 7% own rentals. So if we can just get the average American just to own rental and have 1 or 2 property getting $5,000-$10,000 a month, bro, that's a game changer.
Oh yeah, especially when you think about then the equity that you're amassing on top of it, which creates kind of like generational wealth.
And look, again, I just know this from just noticing this across most big cities across America. Most big cities doubled every 10 years on average. Some even do even faster. If you buy a property for $500,000, 10 years from now, it'd be $1 million. Think about this, dude. Where does anybody, average America, can even save $500,000 in the whole lifetime?
Right.
You couldn't save it fast enough. You wouldn't even live long enough to save $500,000. So you bought a house for $500,000, 10 years, it's worth $1 million. You got $500,000. That's the thing nobody talk about. You couldn't save that money ever in your life. See, if you had 2 of them, you can always put some equity out, use it if you need to. That's the bonus part of it. So But that's what I would say, that no, it's not a young game, man. It's not an old man game. It all depends what the game is for every individual.
Makes a ton of sense. I like the way you frame that, though. I mean, really, if you're thinking about it in the form of just ongoing income, then you can just back into the number of deals that you have to have. So,
of course, the young people come in here, like when they first meet me, I want 100 doors.
right.
And I say, why?
Why? Yeah.
And then, you know what? They're like, shit, I need that to live, man. Like a nice lifestyle. You have no idea. You have no idea. Yeah. Right? And so I try to tell people, listen, young guy, let's see if we can get to 20 grand first. And when we get there, we can always keep going.
Yeah, can always reassess at that point.
That's it. Let's get to 20 grand. You'd be surprised, right? 20 grand, it takes a bit to get there. But pay down. You know? So I try to keep people in perspective, you know what I mean? That, right? It's doable. You can have 100, you know what I mean? There's many strategies to do it, but I would say the BRRRR strategy is the fastest way to get there.
Yeah.
Is value add.
Well, they probably don't appreciate too what's involved in owning 100 doors, right? I mean, like just the management and the cycle of tenants and all the rest. Yeah.
And again, nobody need that much. You know what I mean? Right? For me today, I just playing the game. It's not even like I'm counting like how many doors I even have anymore. I just like playing the game at the Monopoly game. Just to play. Just keep myself. I'm 54. I'm turning 55 soon. It just keep my brain moving like Warren Buffett.
Love it. Thach, what's going on right now in the market? I mean, as it relates to BRRRR in particular, like, yes. I mean, you got lower inventory, you got high interest rates, you got all these different, and even high values. And so, yes. How are you navigating that? What's the strategy in today's market to succeed in BRRRR?
Yes, you gotta buy property where you can add value and force value. Now, for some of you who don't know, adding value is basically remodeling what's already existing there. If it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. You remodel it, you're adding value. Forcing value is when you add more bedroom, bathroom, or even more units. So I like to teach all my students, if you live in an area where you have a basement, buy a house with an unfinished basement. Like in Atlanta, they have basements. So one of my students did this the other day. They bought a house, 2-bedroom, 1-bath. It's a fixer. So they pay for that. They didn't pay for the unfinished basement.
Right.
So when they bought it, they rehabbed the house, and they put more bedroom, bathroom downstairs. They just created a 4-2. And the 4-2 now is worth, I think it was like $600,000 in Atlanta, but they only pay like $350,000. But here's the thing: what people don't realize, they create equity, but the rent's higher because the rent is based on $600,000 of a property in the area.
Right.
So the rent's gonna be higher. So they're not buying a 2-bedroom, 1-bath in a shitty neighborhood. They buy a 2-bedroom, 1-bath fixer with an unfinished basement in a good area where the ARV will be at 600 and the rent will be at 600,000 proportional. Does that make sense?
Yep, it makes total sense.
So you're buying it for lower, so the mortgage is lower. You're adding more bedroom bath, so you get higher rent, right? And I tell people, just do adjustable arm. Just do like a 5-year arm, and interest only if you can for now.
Right. Until things settle.
Soon.
Yeah. Okay.
The rate is going to go down. And you've been around for a long time. You know this. I was just talking with my CEO of my company. I still hang my license at a big company called John Scott. John Scott and Windermere Real Estate, the largest 2 real estate offices in the whole entire Washington state. And they own a lot of office also in California. But Lennox Scott is his name. And Lennox Scott's the one who exposed me to this whole thing called the 10-year cycle. And Lennox, obviously, him and his family in the real estate for 75 years. The 10-year cycle is that it goes up 10 years and it adjusts and corrects itself every 2 to 3 years. And it goes up every 10 years. And it's been like that for a long time. So Lennox just said recently at a meeting, he said, we are starting the 10-year cycle now again. And he says you're going to see a lot more multiple offer happening, especially with good listings.
Yeah.
And so I believe it because this is my 4th real estate cycle now. And I see the exact play out what it was the last 10 years I've been in the game. It's similar. It does this, come out of election after a few kinks, and then they're going to work on getting the rates down. the rate is going to come down. You know, as soon as they get inflation in control, it's coming down. It's going to happen. So right now, it's happening as the cycle go up. What's going to happen is that right now, you know, I think they say 60% of the people right now own property that's 4% and less.
Right.
They're the one holding all the inventory.
Yeah, they're sitting on it. Sure.
Now, at 6.5 and 4, they won't do it yet. Okay? But everybody is going to start moving because they get tired of waiting. Because 4% is the old norm. I think the new norm is going to be high 5, low 6.
Yeah.
So as soon as this thing starts to drop close to 6%, people are going to say, you know what? I'm tired of waiting to get into the school district my damn kid need to be in. They ain't going to get any damn older. You know what I mean?
That's right.
I'm tired of this neighborhood. They're going to say, forget it. And you know what? They just going to just take a little bit smaller house to get to the next thing. And as the inventory starts to come online, right, the rates start to drop. And as the rates come down, the buyer comes on. And the market now starts to turn, just like it did the 3 other decades. But I say to the investor, you better buy now, because as the rates come down, inventories go up. But those inventories not going to keep up with the demand because we have 7 million home shortage across America.
Yeah, exactly.
So even as much as those people go put their house on the market, the number and the rates drop, the number of buyers come off the fence, it still won't be enough, just like it is right now.
Yep. Yep.
So I say, buy now. Get something a little bit smaller in the area you want. At least you got in. As the price starts to rises in the 10-year cycle, rates start to drop, you can always refinance it, and then you can always move up again.
Yeah, that makes sense. What's in the current market now? Is the refinancing component of BRRRR, is that more challenging now than it was in the past, or what? How do you navigate that today?
Yeah, actually now it is more challenging, right? They only giving you, before they used to give you 80% loan to value, right? One of my students just got one the other day for 70% loan to value. So of course they're taking less, the risk is less. So of course, right? That's why it's important that you want to make sure that you buy property where you can create 25-30% more in equity in the deal. Because if you do that, when you do your refi, you have 25-30%. So you can get your original down payment money. But the question is, Thach, how the hell do you get 25-30%? It's from buying homes that you can add value and force value. And now with the ADU play, you can add the second structure in the back. You could convert a garage right now in California, a 500 square foot garage for about $150,000, and you rent for $2,300. Is more than 1%. So now that $150,000 garage, they now assess it as a duplex, and that value is a lot higher now, and which create over 25% with the equity. That's when you refinance, you can get your original down payment and it cover the mortgage, because the $150 you get $2,200. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, yeah.
That's how people is working around this high interest rate doing the BRRRR. Back in the days, you don't have to do ADU. You don't have to. You can just buy a fixer-upper and then get enough equity on it. Now the price is more expensive. You got to get creative on how to spike the ARV higher.
Awesome. That's just, we're kind of winding this down. I mean, if you could give either current investors or prospective investors like one piece of advice in this market, what would that be?
Don't be intimidated by the interest rate. Look for the deal that if the number makes sense, who cares about interest rate? We're not married to interest rate. We're just dating it temporarily.
That's right. Yeah. Marry the house, date the rate.
Focus on the deal. Add value, force value, date the rate for now. But don't keep sitting on the sideline waiting to marry the rate. Because by the time the real person is gone, the real good deal is gone because it got picked up in the 10-year cycle. That one property you could have bought a year ago now worth $100,000 more for that same fixer.
Yeah.
So waiting it's going to cost you even more than the rate. Because you think about it, if you paid 100 grand more, even if you hold the interest rate higher for 2-3 years, it still won't add up to 100 grand more than the property you pay.
Excellent advice. That's great.
That's what I would say to people, right? Run your number, know what to buy, know what area to buy, know what product to buy, right? Focus on the deal. Don't worry about interest rate. You can always refinance because the interest rate will be coming down in 25, 26, 27. It's going to happen. It did it in the last 3 cycles. This is my 4th cycle I'm going through. It's the exact playbook again. I'm not even afraid. I'm like excited for it. For people who don't want to buy, that's okay. Just leave more for me and you.
I love it. I love it. Thach, how can people find more about you or connect with you?
Yes. Just my name, Thach Nguyen. You can find me on YouTube. I have a big YouTube channel and Instagram, right? And just my name, go to Instagram. I post every day. I post inspirational tips and ideas and life lessons about real estate and about life. And then on YouTube, I break down deals, right? Matter of fact, tomorrow I'm about to go and do a whole video on how to buy a fixer using hard money from step by step.
Very cool. We'll tune into that one for sure. Love it. Well, hey, if you found value in this episode, please subscribe or make sure to pass this on to friends and colleagues that can also get value from it. Thach, thank you again. Amazing insights, and really love what you're trying to accomplish in your overall mission. Great stuff.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate y'all being here. Remember, always dream big and anything is possible. Got it? Have an awesome day. Peace out.
Thanks, man.